The last book I came out with was really about how you use science fiction mindsets to help you to come up with those big ideas. Right now, I'm working with governments, and I'm working in the intersection between the government and the private sector on the sustainability agendas. This is a learning path because I come from the private sector, so I need to learn a lot about the government sector. But I see the pattern. I see how things are playing out. I didn't have confidence when I left school. And so I didn't have this big North Star that I can go out and I can change the world. I think until I was probably 35, I did not have a North Star. But I think it was because I did not believe in myself that I could actually do it. It's always about some people who believe in you, right? You need to meet the right people who believe in you, the network. That's why network is everything. You still need to make sure that you skill yourself up, always skill yourself up, always build your network up. Look at the things around you and then put yourself in the middle of your universe. Make sure you are not invisible, but you're visible, because we're all thought leaders within all our different areas that we work in. So my advice is really...
Welcome to FemLead, the podcast on female leadership and role models. This show aims to inspire and equip you with the tools you need to navigate your career plans. FemLead brings inspiring career perspectives and strategies to guide your path to success. Your host, Alexandra, will interview role models on new, exciting topics with each episode. If you like what you hear, give us a review and subscribe to the show on your preferred streaming platform. Enjoy.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of FemLead Podcast. I'm Alexandra Chabotaru, your host, and today we will meet who I believe to be one of the best networkers I've ever met. She is a trailblazer when it comes to building a purposeful career, and today, Ann Rosenberg will talk to us about her career step and milestone strategy that she took in order to build a fulfilling career. She is a Denmark native and global citizen based in LA with over 25 years of corporate experience focusing on technology, sustainability, and purpose. Ann is currently serving as a senior sustainability and climate advisor and board member, and she co-founded the UN SDG Ambition and dedicates her life to advancing the UN SDGs. She's recognized as one of the top 50 influential women in blockchain, and she's pioneered responsible Web3 and AI solutions for climate and governance challenges. She's going to deep dive into her journey from sustainable business transformation to cutting-edge technology and discuss purpose-driven sustainability in her career. On top of that, Ann will also talk to us about how she built up a career by using her potential, but also how she learned to prepare for her next career move with all the learning she've had from the previous roles. This is a very interesting topic and discussion. I think many women should potentially know more about how to plan your career and how to be aware of how to utilize skill sets in your next career moves. So I hope you will enjoy this interview, and I hope we will learn from Ann's very, very cool career experience, both from working for many years at SAP, but also from working for engineering consulting companies, working with NGOs, about how to transition and look at yourself in a more holistic way outside of just having one role. I think this is going to be a very cool interview. Enjoy. Hello, Ann. Welcome to FemLead Podcast. It's really a pleasure to have you here. How are you today?
I am really fine. I am very blessed. I'm here in West Hollywood in LA, and the weather is amazing. And it's just a beautiful day here, morning here in LA.
Fantastic. We had the pleasure to meet a couple of times, and last time still in Denmark, but we managed to also keep in touch and have the opportunity to record this interview. I think what Ann will share today, it's really insightful, and also from a network perspective, I feel like you are one of those people that just connects the dots, and I'm really interested in also advice for women who want to build a successful career when it comes to navigating and actually seeing opportunities and taking those opportunities. I'm really, really curious to discuss that. So I cannot wait. And I think it will be a great interview. But I already shared a little bit about your background. I would like, though, to follow up with your career journey, because you did have a remarkable career journey at SAP. And I was wondering if you can share some lessons or experiences that were key for your time there and that also contributed to your growth as a leader.
Yeah, so first of all, I joined SAP when I lived in Denmark, and I was 28 years old. It was at the time that this is like 25 years ago, and it was a time where you didn't really need to know too much about technology, but you needed to have a good business understanding. And I actually came from shipping, so I have a shipping. My original education is in shipping. So I joined SAP and started this incredible journey that I feel very lucky because it was like the early start of enterprise systems being rolled out. And Denmark, of course, forefront. SAP is a German company, so Denmark in forefront together with many other European companies. So over my many years at SAP, I think what defined me was, and what defined a company like SAP is that it was a mix of that I continued educating myself. I took my executive MBA when I was at SAP. Of course, a lot of courses within the SAP space, but I also had the opportunity to not just work in Denmark, but I had the possibility to get a global positioning, a global job. And I did that pretty quickly. And I remember there was a turning point for me going from sales to become a business consultant. And I didn't even know in the beginning that I being a business consultant was really that I knew I was put on project, but I actually generated revenue for the company. And I remember that was my first time where I kind of thought, do anybody really want to pay money for the advisory that I do? And that kicked off the path for me to really to become an advisor on business process management, enterprise architecture, how to do big SAP digital transformations. But I think as a company, SAP is very much an exploring company. So at the same time, SAP was growing to be this huge, amazing company as it is today. At the same time, it gives the room to people to grow with it. So I then, after 15 years, had the opportunity to relocate to Silicon Valley. When I was very, very young, I actually lived in California. So I was happy to come back to California. And it was exactly at the time where, the big acceleration started about blockchain, AI, the early days of AI, innovation, co-innovation, working with academia, working in accelerators, startup community. So I came to Silicon Valley exactly at that point and was leading SAP's global innovation and their link to academia and accelerators. And the first couple of years I was there, it was like a dream, and it was like one big, amazing opportunity and playground with innovation and ideas. And that's one of my advice. Use your passion and put it to work, and that will inspire the next big things that you would like to do. So in 2015, I was then asked to move to New York by SAP and set up a big innovation space. I was setting up innovation spaces for SAP around the world, but SAP wanted to have a big presence in New York at the Hudson Yards. And being a Dane, we are by nature very, you can say, sustainable, climate thinking. I mean, we have one of the biggest UN set up in the world in Denmark. And my good friend, Lisa Kingu, was the CEO of UN Global Compact. So in 2015, I didn't know too much about sustainability, but the 17 global goals came out. And I began to see that what is the angle of New York on innovation compared to Silicon Valley? It's not just technology, because New York at that time was not known for being a big innovation technology hub, but it was known for having the UN headquarters, and the 17 global goals came out. So I begin to see, as you also referred to, I see pattern, I see like trends. So, very soon those 17 global goals are going to define how we will do digital transformation. So it's not just about innovation, but it's innovation with purpose. So I then started the journey about saying, what if SAP could be a player where when they do technology solutions, that we do sustainable technology solutions. So I created something called the SDG Ambition together with UN. It took 3 years and it's become the most used sustainability framework in the world that the UN Global Compact chapters are rolling out worldwide. And my advice around that is that it was not that I was 100% sure that this was going to happen, but it is this whole thing about that you dare to look into the future. And And doing all those years, I wrote a number of books, which is like probably defined my journey a lot about, what is innovation? You learn about that in Silicon Valley. When you bring innovation into purpose, what does that mean? Because there's no doubt about it, the way you do purpose and the way when you're going to solve some of the big issues, climate issues of the world, you need a certain innovation mindset. And the last book I came out with was really about how you use science fiction mindsets to help you to come up with those big ideas. So I always knew when I was in New York that at one point I wanted to come back, not to the San Francisco Bay Area, but to LA. And why LA? Because LA for me is the La La Land. It's like the playfulness become the science fiction. And that is the mindset that we need, of course, with a certain, you can say conservative to it, because you need to be able to build it. So my advice for my career at SAP was that SAP is an amazing company. I had the opportunity to come in the early days where I was part of this incredible journey SAP. It was on, it's still on. But I also came from, standardization of software into software is becoming an innovation to accelerate growth and new futures. And that's what we're seeing now with sustainability area. My own advice is, don't get stuck in the position you are. Look at the things around you. And then I had many different jobs at SAP, many different positions when I was at SAP. That's why I worked there for so many years, that I moved around. Like every third year, I moved into something new and explore. So that's my advice. Get into an incredible company and grow the company and explore all the kind of side of the company. Yeah.
Really amazing. And you touched on so many, not only lessons, but also milestones. So you did mention that your career with SAP grew when you were in your late 20s. And then from there on, you had the opportunity to move to another continent. And from then on to build also a thought leadership profile and a leadership, of course, persona around sustainability. When you look at those three areas of leadership, sustainability, and the future of work, what do you think defines what we're going to see next?
This is such an interesting question, because one learning that what I was not good at it when I lived in Denmark, and that's very much probably to more, you can say, Nordic women. I'm saying this. We tend to be very, you always need to be humble, but you don't need to not be visible. And we tend to be not very visible. And I remember when I came to Palo Alto, the first thing they said to me, oh, you are a woman in tech, you need to have your own website, you need to go out. I never been out speaking at an event before. I never wrote a blog before. I mean, I've been in SAP for many years, traveled the world with SAP, but it was never about me as a thought leader. It was, and that was not about SAP. It was about me being a Danish woman, being very invisible. So I learned to be visible, which probably is a mix of the Silicon Valley, but also the US, that I'm now 10 years in US, I've become more US, still have the great Danish values, but more US in some settings. So I would say to no matter kind of where you are in your career, make sure that you put yourself in the middle of your universe. Make sure you are not invisible, but you're visible. That is extremely important. And when you begin to have the opportunity to build up a thought leader, because we're all thought leaders within all our different areas that we work in, then put yourself out there. That I will say. And I didn't do I was probably first. I'm 53 now. No, 52 now. And the last 10 years, I've done that. That means that I was 42 when I moved to the United States. I did not do it until I was 42. It took, and I want younger women, I want them to think about this. Make sure that you are visible. Make sure that whatever you're a thought leader in, bring that forward, because then when you move a while, your career, this is the question you ask now, and that's what I think is coming next. Today, the way we work today is very much like we contribute to different companies and we work, with NGOs, and we are part of different communities and network. And in all those settings, we bring in our thought leadership. But we don't just bring in our thought leadership, we bring in who we are and who we are as a people to contribute with. And when you work with sustainability, which is very different when you don't work with sustainability, this is the way your values are. In the old days that I can talk about, is that you were not allowed to bring your feelings with you to work. You couldn't, it was very private about what you felt about the situation and the cause of things and so on. But now when you lead with values today, you give your opinion about things. So my advice is really, whatever you're thought leader on, we are all thought leaders within our different areas. Bring yourself in play on that. Make yourself visible. Whatever you want, a website, whatever you want to do, blog posting, whatever you want to speak at events, whatever you just want to have a voice, on a podcast or whatever it is. I think I wish that I have done that when I was 28 and I joined the technology SAP community. I wish I did at that time, but I didn't. And it took me many, many years until I was 42 to understand I need to do that. Yeah.
So good. When it comes to then advice where things didn't go as planned, you talk a lot about the importance of knowing ahead of time that you shouldn't wait. And that's what I'm hearing from what you're saying. Don't wait for things to come. Don't wait for the best opportunity to present itself, because this is how you learn to get the next one. What would you say that it maybe a piece of advice on barriers that you will need to overcome? Because everything here sounds very positive, but there will be listeners who will think, yeah, but I'm not Ann, and I didn't go there with SAP, and I didn't build a career with a big tech company. What do you advise them when it comes to mindset and overcoming challenges?
So I would say, of course, there's been many challenges, and I will also talk about them. But one thing I want to mention, an exercise I did when doing my journey, and I remember doing COVID, as exciting it is to be a foreign Dane living abroad. Doing COVID was a very, very difficult time. It was for everybody a very difficult time. And I was definitely, what should I do? It was exactly at the time where I was a lot at UN. My time in New York, I spent a lot of time at UN. I was speaking a lot at UN, and I was approached by an engineering consultant company, Wood PLC, that I joined after SAP, if I wanted to come and be part of building up their sustainability practice, because they were serving a lot of oil and gas companies who want to go into renewable. And it was exactly at the time that COVID hit the world. Nobody knew, and I didn't know, should we were a lot home in Denmark, like many foreign Dane was. I left SAP, that has been everything for me for, at that time, almost 21 years. And so it's like a chair, like you want at least to have certainty of 3 of the legs, otherwise you are scrambling. And just like many people, I was scrambling about, I changed my job. We love US. We were back in Denmark. I joined a new job that I really, really loved, and being in the engineering consultant company was amazing. And I'll come back to that in 2 seconds. But it was too many, and then the whole thing about nobody knew what's going on with the COVID. So it was like more or less like 3 pieces of the chair that was bumbling around. So remember what I did was that I took this big piece of paper and I put myself in the middle, and I kind of every day was like, just to calm myself down, because there was so much uncertainty, to make more or less like a plan, say, I'm here. Okay, how do I relax around my new work setup, right? Because I didn't go and meet I first meet the people from Wood 1.5 year after I started in person, because it was during COVID, right? So suddenly I was doing everything virtually and everything, in a new company, being 1 years in one company and go to a whole new company. So I try kind of to really be, how do I feel relaxed and feel safe around that whole situation? And I did that. So I put myself in the middle and say, what about my whole home situation? So what we did in New York, we didn't dare to stay in Manhattan, so we moved to Brooklyn. So we had a car outside so we could move around, but otherwise being on-site Manhattan was a little bit scary during COVID, and we also spent some time in Denmark. So I try to stabilize. I would say when those uncertain situations come, I always take a big piece of paper, put myself in the middle, and look at all the things that make me bring that fear up in you, where you don't know what to do, and you kind of are stuck in the whole thing. So that is a recommendation. I would then say starting in Wood was an amazing journey, but a huge challenge, not just because of COVID. And I remember in the beginning, people was like, how can a person go from a big software company, enterprise software, into an engineering consultant company who work with oil and gas companies and are building up a renewable, sustainable business? But that goes back to what I said before about exploring and see patterns. So what you learned in Silicon Valley, because I knew being at SAP that for finding a company who can build the technology nuggets that I call them, like how do you do emission measurement, emission 1, 2, and 3? How do you build solution, to a, within the, make sure there's clean air access and all the different kinds of things we do in sustainability. You need to go to the engineers. I'm not an engineer. I went into a company who has a whole other culture that a software company has. But now I worked at Wood for almost 2 years and did some amazing work with Copenhagen Infrastructure Partner, built up the sustainability practice, positioned them into COP in Scotland. And now where it is, I left Wood for 1.5 years ago. At that time, it looked like that was a crazy career decision I took, right? I knew that it makes sense because I was looking for exactly what Wood could do. But people outside thought that was weird. Today, when people approach me, it has a huge value that I went to an engineering consultant company and begin to understand what does decarbonization means in the oil and gas industry. What do offshore, onshore mean? I went in and got the very details into this and begin to understand technology solution within that space. So today, people say, that was a really smart move, Ann, right? So this is back to the daring. Do I dare to do something which is not expected, right? You need to have a lot of confidence in you. But there are two sides of me. There's the side where I'm very much about safety. I need to be in a safe space, safety. That's why I draw those big white papers when I don't feel safe to stabilize myself. But then there's a side of me that is this adventure, that I get, is an obsession. I say, I know there's something on the other side. The reason why I'm here in the world is because that's why I did the SDG Ambition. I need to go do something about it, right? And you must never kill that one, because that's what make you life. That's what make. I'm always I'm on a mission. So I was on a mission going for a software company to an engineering consulting company where the skills sit to come up with those solutions. And then I did a lot of replatforming into Google Sustainability Cloud and Microsoft Sustainability Cloud. I will then say, from a career thing, is that what is interesting when you've been a company as I have for so many years at SAP, and I thought I was going to be there the rest of my life, until I will stop working. Now trying to be in another company, and that was where what I said before, that I begin to focus on myself and not just focus on the company I was working for, but beginning to understand that my thought leadership have an universe, right? So I took the pieces from SAP, I took the pieces for Wood, knew it was very extreme what I've done there, but knew what I learned I would use in my next step. And that's where I joined EY to build up the new global sustainability practice. But doing all this work, I begin to understand, and that is also learning from SAP that I would like to give to everyone, especially women, is that the way you generate revenue does not only need to be from one source. So remember when we moved to LA and we were doing a leasing agreement with where we live today. And I had this paper and it's super simple. Sometimes you have those aha moments. It said, so how are you going to pay your rent? And then it lined up like 10 different ways that people can get their revenue channels from, right? And I was kind of thinking, I never thought about that. I never thought about that. So I began to see myself like, how do I protect myself that I actually have different revenue channels? So when I move from this job to this job, or if I would like to support that NGO, or if I would like to do this, and so that I have a number of revenue channels around me, so I can navigate the space, right? And I think this is what we see now going forward, where when you change to become this thought leader, that I will advise people become much better than I became it, that you begin to see yourself, because that's how I see myself. I have a job to do being in this world, and that is to be the link between sustainability and IT. So I need to advise where I can advise. I need to help where I can help. Sometimes, it is in some NGO work you do. Sometimes it's in a corporation you do it. But you need to get out and do those things. And of course, you need to look at yourself very holistic around this. So being at EY, which was, you can say, coming from SAP, engineering consultant company, to EY, I was ready for my next journey because I always worked a lot in the private sector. But working with the private sector and working with UN opened the window for me for government. And when you look at the whole, when you feel like I feel that I serve UN, I serve as good as I can to help the whole world to move the right direction around the climate agenda, I know the government play a big role. So I had the opportunity to join Cbrain. And Cbrain is a Danish software company, remarkable software company. Most of the Danish government run software from Cbrain. So it is digitization, it's GovTech, and then it's climate tech. And again, back to about this exploring phase. So it's more or less like understanding the private sector world, the software world, understanding the sustainability world around that. I understand the play around UN, and I understand how an engineering consultant company come in with the domain knowledge. But what I was missing was, okay, if you want to build a whole new infrastructure, or some of those big climate agendas that we have in front of us, you need government, you need regulations, you need new infrastructure builds, you need efficiency. And if you look at, for example, something like permitting, we have in Denmark the best in the world to set up offshore, onshore. We have Copenhagen infrastructure partner. We have everything what is needed to build all different kind of renewable settings, right? We have AP Møller Mærsk, we have the whole thing, we have the whole thing. But if you don't have a government that can give you the permitting really fast and quick, you are stuck. It would take years. It would take years to this transition. So Cbrain is a company that literally specialized themselves in GovTech, and Denmark is the country in the world who has the strongest digitalization of government and who has the strongest climate solution for government. So we are now with Cbrain, I'm part of the business development team, bringing this out to the world, especially working on California, in Brazil, India, where we work with governments and digitalizing the government and working with them to come in and with climate solution, whatever it is, in the access to clean water, the whole permanent I spoke about, grain management, all of this stuff. Because if we can solve that, all the great stuff we then have of solutions coming on this other side, we can then accelerate. So you can say my journey, and that's my recommendation to people, is that figuring out what is your passion, put yourself on a mission. That mission can change over time because this is an exploring mission. And then don't get stuck one place, but then go those places where you can help and learn about it, right? And do a change. So you can say, so right now I'm working with governments and I'm working in the intersection between the government and the private sector on the sustainability agendas. And then and is, you can say this is a learning path, because I come from the private sector, so I need to learn a lot about the government sector. But again, I see the pattern. I see how things are playing out. So that's where I am now. And then I'm part of an NGO that is called Sustainable IT. And that's, for me, is like probably like my passion, like crazy. Like, okay, we listen to the chief sustainability officers, we listen to the CEOs, but in the end, every software, like every company is a technology company. So when are we begin to listening and bring the technology side of the company into the conversation? So that sustainable IT is about inviting chief technology officers, information officers, data officers to the big conversation about the sustainable transition plan companies has. And this is like, somehow they fall between two chairs with we now bring them back in. And this is about education, empowerment, best practices being seen, that we work on this. Yeah.
Fantastic. I'm going to sum up what you said, because I think this is a masterclass in being inspired and taking opportunities and looking holistically at how you can expand from one topic that you're passionate about into an opportunity of having multiple careers. I loved the part where you mentioned that you considered actively revenue streams for yourself that then could multiply into career options that you will choose from at what time you prefer. And then with each experience that you take with that particular role, you go into the next industry and into the next industry. And you promote yourself as the person that joins with experience, but beyond the experience of, let's say, 20 plus years of work experience, industry experiences, which is something that it's, first of all, great, but I don't think a lot of people in general think about how can I transition so that my experience is about more the effect that I can have and the impact I can have on the development of a company, and less about how to necessarily be an expert. Because there are people who will become subject matter expert, and that's fantastic, but there are many people who want to become leaders of, let's say, companies in general, not necessarily a particular industry. And those are interchangeable skills that we can think about more actively. I'm really happy you've mentioned that. And I want to ask you on that note, because you said so many things that I really want to get back to. Is there a point in your career, beyond, of course, moving to the US, where you noticed, okay, everybody thinks about thought leadership? Is there a point in your career where you were like, wow, this is a remarkable milestone? This, for me, is basically something that will forever be, let's say, a huge thing to show. And then beyond that, did you have a North Star when you planned your career?
No. And that's again a very
short answer. The short answer is no.
No, but it is an interesting question. When I have always been a very hard working person from nothing really came easy. So I studied hard, and I'm the type of person that love doing a lot of stuff. So I study hard. When I started working, I always studied next to my work. If I don't study, I was teaching. I've been teaching a lot. I was writing books. Always like a lot of stuff going on. But if I go back to my early days, I remember when I remember that. I would, I didn't have, and that's sometimes I have, sometimes I don't have. It depends on how I feel, right? But I didn't have confidence when I left school. And so I didn't have this big North Star that I can go out and I can change the world. If anybody have told me that because that's the other side of me, that I can do anything that I put to my mind. But then there's this very unsecure, safety person in me also. So when I left school, and I started working, it's still called DFDS, I wanted to go into shipping because a lot of people went into shipping at that time, right? So I did that. but then, there was a side of me that was like, I was curious. Maybe I could do something more. And there was this guy, and I meet him sometimes when I'm in Denmark. I was taking my, it was called that time, HD at Copenhagen Business School. And he was working for IBM, and remember this many years ago. And I remember he was like, I'm doing this and this. And I was so intrigued by him, right? And then, so this more adventure side of me said, what if I could do something like this? And then I went, and I remember I applied for this job at SAP, and it was called relationship manager. And I was like, I can do that without knowing anything about software, right? And then it was, because it's always about some people who believe in you, right? You need to meet the right people who believe in you, the network. That's why network is everything. So I met some people at SAP, and they believed in me, and I'm so thankful to them because they led me into SAP. And then I kept having this, but even when I joined SAP, and I felt in the beginning, oh, I'm not, and I was not educated enough. I didn't have a high education behind me. So, but I knew, and that's an important thing also, that just because you are in this amazing company, you still need to make sure that you skill yourself up, always build your network up. So I took my executive MBA, and when I took my executive MBA, I remember it was the blue and green ocean. I was so inspired, and I didn't know at that time, maybe I should become a business management consultant. But then I would say, when that kicked in, and that was probably a turning point for me, when I got my executive MBA, I kind of felt I am really educated now. I'm educated now. I'm allowed to be where I am. I'm proud. I got really proud. But that was when I got that. And then my big idea started. Then I said, now I don't just want to work in Denmark. I want to work on SAP implementation all over the world. I moved to Germany, and then I moved to US, and then the whole thing started. So I think until I was probably 35, I did not have a North Star. But I think it was because I did not believe in myself that I could actually do it. But then it turned around. When I felt I had enough education, I started writing books. I started, I started too late. I mean, I should have done so much earlier. And that's the reason why, believe in yourself, start earlier than I started, right? Yeah, I think that was a turning point. And then it was a turning point when I realized that I began to learn about the 17 global goals. I was like, oh my God, how the world could have been part of so many great SAP implementation. Never thought about sustainability before. It clicked for me, and then and for me, that's today is my calling. My calling is that there's so much great stuff we need to do in front of us for many years to come. That is much more about working for this company or being from this country, or it's much more about, and I call it the UN school. When you get close to UN, you get this much more holistic responsibility that you feel that you contribute with. And that's why I always say, who do I really work for? I don't work for UN, but I can't say I work with the mandate UN has as good as I can where I'm involved. Yeah.
Fantastic. So many nuggets of wisdom, and it starts not only from the fact that you build a successful career and that now you are a thought leader, and you've built that journey while you realize you can be a thought leader, that you don't need to have a, let's say, special moment, but at the same time you also talk about a lack of confidence and realizing your potential. Yeah. And many women don't know first of all, where to find the confidence, the inner confidence to say, I can do it. And once they do that, they don't necessarily know how to utilize their skills and put themselves forward. And I have many questions that I wanted to ask you, Anne, but honestly, what I think we should talk about today is, when you have opportunities and you find yourself in different environments, what was your strategy to successfully position yourself as a thought leader? Because when you look at, meeting people and networking, let's say you are an extrovert, like I consider myself to be, and you go around, but smartly navigating environments is not necessarily something that comes easily. And I'm curious about your advice because I think you are, for me, one of the role models when it comes to honestly easily connecting the dots. Everywhere I meet you, you already have 3 ideas for me, and I haven't really said anything yet. So I feel like you kind of come even up with opportunities for people you have in your network. And that's rare that someone does this work sometimes for you. What do you think is maybe a, I don't know, a skill or something you consider people should know about that you want to share today?
So, for the Danish listeners, Danish people are often not often find it very difficult to do networking, especially if you do networking in circles where you don't know anybody. And I would say I was really bad at networking, and I learned to network the hard way, probably the best way, in New York. I was running this innovation space for 8 years. We had event every single day. I didn't know anybody, and I was responsible for it. And what New Yorkers are, they are really good in small talking. What US people are is very good in small talking. Um, so I think I learned it the hard way. You come in, you don't know anybody, you need to run something, and you just need it to work out. So I've been in the New York networking schools, with of course a benefit from today, but 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 I will also say that what you should do, because it's not like every day you kind of feel I'm up to networking, because it is a side of you, right? So my advice is whatever come natural to you and not naturally, you are who you are. And when I go into an event, and this is the hardcore New Yorker speaking here, you know why you're there, what you want to get out of it, and what you're trying to achieve. It could be a little bit too much sometimes, because because you maybe you just want to have a nice conversation with people, you don't really want to get anything out of it. But if you mentally prepare yourself, whatever it is, just to go down to the supermarket, or is going to go to a dinner with a friend, or going to an industry conference, or whatever you're going to, be prepared. Think about who is coming. Think about who you can meet. And then one thing that I always do, and it sounds stupid when I say, is dress up for success. I mean, figuring out what makes you confident, right? For me, it is like, take some clothes on that you love, the high heels, look the best. And this doesn't matter if you're men or women, look the best, because you also know how it is when you look the best and you prepare yourself, you automatically want to achieve something. You want to present yourself. You want to do something, right? So I think it's very much about, what you say to yourself, how you prepare you mentally to go into something. We can all be equally good networkers. Some people are born with it and just, go. But I would say a good networker is not just a person who's speaking. A good networker is a person who reads the room, who honestly make sure they speak to the right people in the room for whatever they want to achieve, and then afterwards get something out of it, right? And sometimes I would also say, I can see with some of the Danish people I work with, something that is very natural for me. We just go on network, just do this and this and this. I can see they feel complicated about it, right? But I can tell you, as it is, you feel uncomfortable about it sometimes. But when you then do it, you will have the best evening ever. So I'll just get out, try it out, but try to make sure you feel confident yourself with who you are. What are you going to talk about? What is your pitch? What are you? Yeah. So I would say we all can be equally good networkers. Yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, that's really good advice, because we at FemLead for now host events only in Denmark, particularly in Copenhagen. But of course, we're also looking at expanding, and not only looking at networking offline, but also online, of course, through coaching call and other forums. And what we always share is that showing up is half the job.
Yeah.
Because once you're there's different things that can happen. Worst case, you just don't feel all right, then you leave.
Yeah.
But showing up in a forum already gives you the opportunity to maybe connect with someone that you can learn from and have a follow-up with, learn something from, and potentially also create synergies.
Yeah.
And ideally, what you get out of it, it's also the, as we call it, network effect. The second time you go there or in any other forum, you are already more trained to kickstart the conversation. So then it becomes easier.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. When I went to the US just the beginning of this year, I love the energy of networking. It's part of my job now, which I think it's fantastic because I love it. So when I need to go somewhere, I'm like, yes, this is fantastic. But I also know why I'm going there. I know who I'm meeting.
Yeah.
I'm prepared. I follow up. And I usually share something very relevant on the spot.
Yeah.
So then that creates a context also for then following up and having a clear to-do after. And that, of course, goes for my job now, but this can also go if you're hunting for a job, if you're looking for your career transition, or if you're looking for advice from people that you admire. Going there, being prepared, like you said, honestly just makes a huge difference. And then the thing is, what I've noticed is that when you ask people questions, even if they don't want to tell you anything or if they don't know what to answer, at least they give you a hint of how to approach this topic. If they don't want to go into details, they won't tell you. If they don't know, they'll be like, maybe I'm not the right person, but potentially they introduce you to then someone who knows something about that topic. So the opportunity of creating something good for yourself, it's there by just showing up and asking the question. And I'm really happy that you said everything you've shared, because I, as I said, I see you as a great networker. But beyond that, when you become the connecting spot between different people and organizations, you also, in a way, make yourself the center of, okay, if I need information, Anne would know what to do. And that for yourself, it's already like you learn so much. But also because you are passionate about what you do and because you know a lot of people and you network, then it also makes it in a way easier for people to come to you. And isn't that the dream, that then you would be able to be like, okay, you actually need this advice. I know who can give this specific advice to you. This is my view, but let me connect you to someone who's even better. And this is how you basically create synergies and help others go to the next level. What a gift is that, based on how much work you've done. So honestly, congratulations on just keeping the energy and wanting to do that for all of us. I really appreciate it. And on this note, I also want to thank Anne for all the intros she's done for me, that she very generously provided without any particular ask, because this is who she is. So it was really honestly, it was really a great role modeling that I've seen from you.
I want to say one thing that I forgot to mention. Always be consistent. Be who you are, be consistent, and of course, be truly kind in yourself, but also protect yourself. Because you will, especially in a networking situation, you will meet people that might take advantage of you, or they feel you really bad when you start the conversation because they feel they're so much more than you are. I remember when I took my executive MBA and I never understood it, and I'm so much against it. It's like we had a session about when you go into a room and you meet some new people, are they allowed to speak to you or not speak to you? That's something you put into your mind. And I remember when I heard about that, I said, what is that? Everybody's allowed to speak to each other. Everybody's equal. Everybody has something that is interesting to have a conversation about. So we all know those situations. We're standing speaking, we admire the person so much, we don't know what to say. But remember, that person admires somebody else. That person is also insecure, right? So I think the best you can do is just to totally relax, just be yourself, because then you also give the best of yourself. But very important, I always say to people, anything you do in your life, consistency, consistency, consistency. This is what you'll be known for. I can count on you, and that is important. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm so happy you wrapped up with this, because also creating trust doesn't come immediate. So if you are consistent and you show up, but you also keep your word,
Yeah.
this is also the path to actually bonding and building that network. So I'm super happy you've mentioned it, because it's a great piece of advice to not forget about, and not just be a super social butterfly, but then forget to follow up as
You're here,
promised.
you're there, and then suddenly you're not there. But then, and that's the reason why I'm always also in the work I do. I always say to people, are you sure you really want to do this now? If we do this now, we do it again next year. If it's something you do once a year, it's like, it cannot just, because especially when you work with sustainability is not just a thing that is happening right now. It is something that will be here forever, and until we solve the whole issue around it, right? And that's the new way of living. So consistency is super, super important.
Absolutely.
Because as you said, we live in a world right now where trust is the most important thing. Trust, reliable, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And thank you so much. I don't want to let you go without answering our final 5-fire questions. So quickly, we will go through your final pieces of advice that I'm sure they're going to be very, very on point. So I'm going to start with one book that profoundly impacted you and you believe that everyone should read.
Oh, I am sorry, I will not be able to mention it. And the reason why I'm saying that is that's back to my own journey. I see myself as an explorer, and so I do a lot of research, I do a lot of learning and reading, but I get inspired by different things as I travel. And so for me, what inspired me could be a person I meet. It could be a momentum in the world where I think it's more my pattern. I hear something here, I hear something here. Suddenly I realize that's where things are heading. Just like when I realized I need to go to an engineering consultant company, it was not that I have read it anywhere or somebody said it was something that I begin to see a path. So I would say, I remember when I was teaching a lot in Copenhagen, and my student, they were like, "Oh my God, and you're asking us to read so much," and I was like, "Listen here, you need to be a damn good researcher. Research, read, and then you begin to put up your mind together." So I would say one book. That would not be fair to anybody if I said that. It is inspiration that is coming. Yeah.
That's a very good answer based on what you've shared with us now. So researching is the core of actually being able to see patterns, and I think that's a good takeaway from this question. Can you share with us next what is the best piece of advice that you have ever received?
Yeah. Everything is possible. And that doesn't mean that everything is possible. But the thing is that if you think it could potentially be possible, you will put your mind to it. Of course, then don't get disappointed if it doesn't work out. But if you're not trying to work, first of all, when you have in a mindset that everything is possible, you have this more la la lands, and I always said to people, when you have this science fiction mindset and big visions and dreams and stuff like this, of course you need to be realistic also at the same time. It fuels you with so much love and happiness, but of course then the person I'm an executor, so I need to make sure I bring it home. I don't always bring it home, but I bring maybe half of it home. So I think everything is possible mindset, and there's no limit. Of course, there's tons of limit. But so I remember when I worked at SAP and also other places I worked, I said, this is what I want to do. I might not have enough money to do it. There's all these restrictions. I never seen a restriction as something that can stop me. I'm like unstoppable. Maybe I don't reach the whole way, but I at least reach some of the way. Yeah. Everything is possible.
Fantastic. Yeah. Fantastic. And since you are a role model for us at Family, who is your role model?
So my role model is the UN General Secretary Antonio. He's my role model. I know he's a man, but he's my role model because I'm such a UN person. And of course, Kofi Annan, who was the former, I am a very UN person. And I think some of the big leaders within the UN system, also Amina Mohammed, who is this Assistant Secretary General, Sandra, who is the Assistant Secretary General responsible for UN Global Compact, is a role model for me. And I think it has to do with that this is very complicated, the agenda that they are on, but this inclusiveness they have around them. So I think that's probably where I find my role models. Not that I'm not inspired by other people, but that's probably my true role models where I'm starstruck. And then
Fantastic.
I always say I can get starstruck, and I get starstruck like a Paul Polman is a good friend of me. I'm starstruck by him. Some of the some of the leaders within the UN CCC, the president, but everything is in the UN purpose system. There are some amazing chief sustainability officers, for Google and for HSBC. I mean, oh my God, they are great. I mean, but that's because that's what I focus on. That's my passion. Of course, Shannon Salas, that we both love dearly, and is a good friend of me. What she don't do for women is amazing. There's some incredible people out there. But I think define all of them is that they are truly real people that have an understanding about that they need to contribute to this incredible world we are in, but they don't put themselves first. They kind of like they you could say they orchestrate and help and support and so on. Probably what that defined them. Yeah, I think that's probably what.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
great role models to have. If you were to pursue a different career, completely different, what would it be?
Oh, I don't know. I'm so excited about what I do. I'm such a technology person. I'm such a sustainability person. I think I landed where I will land. I mean, I live in LA where I have the opportunity to live in, it's the old Hollywood. So the movies, and there's a lot of film and, writers around me, but it is inspiring to see and be a part of. But my passion is in sustainability. I mean, at one point I dreamed about working for UN, but I also think that the UN system is it's a very bureaucratic system, and I think actually I landed, in the world I see myself in. I just love the intersection between technology and sustainability. I'm such a big fan of.
So you wouldn't do another career, which I think it's the first time we're hearing that, and that's so wonderful. That they're like, honestly, just the way pieces come together is just the perfect setup for you. So I'm really happy to hear that, Anne. And our last question today, is if you could swap roles with someone for a day, who would it be and why?
I think if I should swap role for a day with a person, will probably be the Secretary General of UN. And it's not so much because I had the pleasure to meet him when I launched SDG Ambition framework, because he's the sponsor of the framework. But if you think about his mandate, what he does, the Security Council, speaking, of course, into the whole situation about the war we have around the world, but at the same time, speaking about access to clean water or food, or, the big climate agenda. Here you have a person who are sitting on an agenda that is bigger than, it's the biggest agenda in the world. It's in my world, it's bigger than any head of state. I mean, he convened. So, I'm part of the, the General Assembly and COP and all this stuff. And if you look at this whole setting, the reason why the General Assembly, the Climate Week in New York, COP, and all of those events are becoming so influenced, and now also the G20 meetings, is that the UN are curating this mass of scale agenda for the world, getting all the countries together. So I think it should be with him, not to say anything, but just to be able to be in all those meetings, have all those conversations. Unbelievable, amazing. Yeah. And for a couple of years, the General Secretary, you didn't see him on TV. He's on TV often in Denmark, in US. People know who he is, right? Yeah. No, he is incredible leader in my world. Yeah.
I don't know why somehow I thought you might say that. when you share your role model, I was like, that's actually an interesting role, and also a important role to have that gives you a helicopter view, but also comes with a lot of responsibility. So it would be interesting for one day to see how it is from that perspective.
It's
see
always
the
like
yeah.
when he's in the television, the Secretary General speaking is like, oh, right. But that's how it is when it's your role model. No, he's amazing.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, and I hope you have fun. I think this was one of the most, honestly, just one of the most interesting episodes we've had, because you went through your journey, but you also explained your decision making, and it was so diverse, and you're doing so many different things, but they all come together, that I really hope more women and men in general would find the passion to and the energy to bring everything together and have a fulfilling career like you are also describing yours. So I really hope you had fun, and thank you so much for coming today.
No, thank you so much. It was a really, really fun conversation. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ann. And thank you all for listening. Stay tuned for more interviews with inspiring role models.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of FemLead Podcast. Share the news with your friends and follow us on social media at FemLead Podcast everywhere.